We are going across the entire NFL, previewing all 32 teams. We are starting with the team that won the Super Bowl down to the team that got the first overall pick. If you've been watching, we appreciate it. Keep liking, subscribing. I know the Chargers fans absolutely showed out. But today, we're going to be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm sure that me and you are going to probably have vastly different opinions on what this should look like and what this should sound like. So I think that I am going to lay out my case, and then I think you should lay out your case and or have a rebuttal to what I have to say. Because my personal opinion is that the Philadelphia Eagles window is completely closed. Let me tell you why. I know that you are probably going to sit here and think that I'm going to talk about Jalen Hurts. And if you've watched this channel for a long period of time, that has been a major discussion point. I am not going to do that today because I think that everybody, although I was saying this 2 years ago before they even won the Super Bowl, that I was like questioning his play. I feel like everybody, including the fans, have kind of come around to the idea that Jalen Hurts isn't playing up to standard and he is not worth the $250 million price tag at this point, and he's extremely limited at some points in his game. So to like really beat a dead drum on that is unnecessary. What I do want to talk about is just the offense in general, because over the last few years, the Philadelphia Eagles offense has been bottom of the league. The year that Saquon went off, that was their rushing offense was at the top, but with their passing, they ended up somewhere between, I think it was like 17th in the league.
Bottom to middle of the pack. Yeah.
Yeah, just strictly because of how bad the passing game was, even though, and like I said, everybody who follows the Eagles know this. A great offensive line, a great wide receiving core, a $250 million quarterback, one of the best offensive weapons at the running back position that we've seen. Now we go into this season coming off of last, and there's some major things that happened that I feel like are kind of getting swept under the rug. They hire Sean Mannion, is his name correct? Yeah. As an offensive coordinator who is mine and yours age, a year older than us, who has never called plays at any level as of yet. Number two, the team that struggled with injuries along the offensive line last year, we are just another year older with this offensive line. Lane Johnson's a million years old. He said this might be his last year, blah, 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 et cetera. And to cap that off, the Eagles lose probably one of their most important coaches on the coaching staff that they have harped on and beat their chest about for years, of just Jeff Stoutland, who I guess he just didn't like Nick Sirianni anymore and said that he was just done with it. And I think that having somebody who was the offensive line guru just walk out the door can't be stated as big of a loss as it is. Lastly, two more things, and then you can go. Lastly, AJ Brown, whatever, Eagles fans, it was a messy breakup, the whole nine. Regardless, he's an extremely talented piece for that offense. He did so much. There were times where you were even like, what he does and how teams have to game plan for him, like, opens up everything else on the offense. He was just that important to the offense moving forward when the Eagles were really clicking. He's gone. And lastly, Lemon, who I think he just returned to practice, actually.
Yeah.
Pretty much missed the entire camp cycle. And that matters. I mean, as a young player trying to get integrated into an offense and missing the amount of time that he is, I would also anticipate him having a slow start. With all of this being said, I am just really failing to see how the Eagles are going to be better than they were last year. And I think that this might be one of the worst offensive units secretly across the entire NFL. And it feels like not that many people are talking about it.
Is that all you got? Or is that like, I don't want to cut you off.
No,
okay.
No.
I think we'll agree on more things than you actually think. Like,
okay,
pretty much all those things that you laid out, I think are valid. I think that Jalen Hurts is in a absolute like prove it year for him as a quarterback. I think he has to go out and show that he is able to run an offense at a higher level that he has been previously doing it. Is he going to be able to do that? I don't know, but we'll see. Offensively, the talent around him. Obviously, I still love Saquon, but he's still a year older. Losing AJ Brown is going to sting offensively for this team, because as it stands, it is a wide receiver room of Devontae Smith, who I think he can be a wide receiver one, but it's a little bit different when you're actually put in that position and you're expected to put up wide receiver one numbers offensively. Now he
Real
was
quick before you continue, and I have a question. If the quarterback was a little bit better than Jalen Hurts, would you feel more comfortable of like a JSN-esque breakout from Devontae Smith? Because that's how I feel. I'm with you
yeah,
on this.
yeah,
I think that like there's a world where Devontae Smith could be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL
there
and have,
is.
like I said, like that JSN-esque breakout. I just genuinely am concerned that like Jalen Hurts, for whatever reason, just is not capable of having a wide receiver produce those types of numbers.
And I don't think so either. I don't think that that is ever going to be the way that the Eagles function offensively. Also having Saquon Barkley, and also when their offensive line is healthy, having a solid run game. I just don't think that that's how they're ever going to operate. I don't think uh, Jalen is good enough consistently to do that, to a point where JSN had what, 1,800? How many yards did he have last year? 18?
1,700 yards.
Like, I don't think that you're going to get that type of production from one guy in this Philadelphia Eagles offense. Um, I think that just the unit itself, like the offensive unit, is either old and or unproven, aside from Saquon and uh, Devontae Smith. Like, putting Devontae Smith in wide receiver one position offensively here is going to, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, because now there's actual expectations, as opposed to when he was wide receiver one before they got AJ Brown. That was like a period of Philadelphia football where it was like they weren't they weren't good. They were just like a middle of the road team at that point when he was the only wide receiver on their team. But now there's like actual expectations surrounding this football team and surrounding him to go out there and put up X amount of stats. Saquon, I think that I don't expect him to have a year like he did 2 years ago when he was the best running back, when he had one of the best running back seasons of all time. But I do think the offensive line is going to be healthier, and I think all in all that will help him. And then Dallas Goedert at tight end, like, I still think he has some years left in him. I still think he's a decent tight end, but it's just another year older for him. And then the depth of the offense is worrisome to me, because as of now, you look at this wide receiver room and it's Devontae Smith, and it's a rookie that has missed majority of training camp. It's Dontavian Wicks, who was a guy that I liked in Green Bay, like I thought was going to be good at some point, but he's just hasn't been.
He's never panned
And
out. Yeah.
and Hollywood Brown, who we've talked about jumping from team to team every single year, and it's just like
He's
the
washed. I mean,
the group, yeah, the
there's no two
group
ways
is.
around it.
And then another guy is Darius Cooper, who was like wide receiver 5 last year for the Eagles, like a practice squad, like fringe guy. There's just not a lot to be like necessarily excited about when your first round draft pick has been injured and you're looking at Devontae Smith and a new offense and a quarterback that has underperformed for the last 2 years or so. So I think offensively, it's going to start slow. And if it gets figured out, I don't think it'll be until later in the season, maybe like the middle of the road. But I think that Jalen has to play some of his best football this season. And I just don't know. I don't know if we're going to get that, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if the front office of the Eagles has a serious question at the end of the season of, do we keep Jalen Hurts or do we move on? I think there's a realistic situation where this could be his last year in Philadelphia.
I want to come back to that. The other question I wanted to ask is, how big of a loss is Jeff Stoutland?
Yeah, okay,
for
that too. So I go back and forth on this because I think he's important. Don't get me wrong. I think he is. I'm confused about kind of what ended up happening because it was kind of just like, yeah, I'm leaving. I think it might have had something to do with the way that the Eagles wanted to run their offense moving forward and the type of offensive line scheme that they were looking for, which you don't ever want to force a guy like that that's had so much success coaching offensive lines out of your building. So that part of it is a red flag to me. I don't know why he would just leave. I don't know if he was forced out. I don't exactly know what happened, but that sucks. Now, the other side of it is like there is always going to be a point where Jeff Stoutland is no longer the coach of the offensive line, and eventually you have to move on. I don't think the answer is moving on sooner than you have to, but I think the talent up front is still plenty good enough when healthy that regardless of who the offensive line coach is, I think they'll be okay.
We will see. Last year it got pretty bleak, and
they were banged up last year.
They were. I wanted to come back to that Jalen Hurts thing because I think I think that there's two ways this goes. One, Jalen Hurts breaks out again. He looks incredible. The Eagles are good, and Sean Mannion's a head coach somewhere next year. And
dude, if he manages to get a head coaching job after 1 year, I will be.
Well,
shocked.
the thing is it seems like every young, talented play caller will somehow be able to elevate themselves into like head coaching discussions at least. And I think the thing that I think ends up happening is that we are going to be in a situation where people are going to be trying to save jobs. And I know that we're going to probably reach a situation where their GM, who everybody loves, I don't know why his name is slipping me at this point, Howie Roseman, is going to sit there and probably have the conversation just like every other expensive quarterback who has had issues over the last few years. And if he gets a little bit banged up, if something happens, if the offense looks really bad the first 5 weeks and then Jalen Hurts has a hamstring injury or an ankle injury and then gets held out for a few games and the backup comes in and the offense starts to look a lot better and they're moving the football more and the
Dalton comes in
and then they're going to be sitting there and be forced with a really tough question where it's like, do we put Jalen Hurts back out there and risk a big long-term injury that could potentially divert us from being able to trade him for any asset and be stuck with this contract? Or do we bench him because we know what we get out of him? It's a wasted year and play the backups, but like maybe Mekhi Lemon looks really good. Maybe Devontae Smith looks really good. Maybe Saquon has a better year and start. It's crazy that we're having this conversation with the Eagles because this has been a team that has been like perennially in the picture, in the Super Bowl picture. And I really think the flag, planting the flag moment, I said it a few months ago, but that I knew that the Eagles were waving the white flag on this football season. And that is when Myles Garrett got traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Los Angeles Rams. That seems like a move. And same thing when Max Crosby went from, at the time, the Raiders to Baltimore, that obviously got nixed. My first thing was like, why would the Eagles not trade AJ Brown for Max Crosby and like a first or something like that? Just the lack of movement this offseason from the perennial, like all-time edge rushers who were available in trades. It felt like the Eagles and Howie Roseman, their names 2 years ago, even last year, would have been linked all over those deals. And it felt like what they were more focused on was getting future draft capital. Example, AJ Brown traded to the New England Patriots for a 2027 first to set themselves up in case the worst case scenario, press the red button, happens with Jalen Hurts. And to me, everything that happened, all the moves that happened, and them not having their thumb on it, kind of for me was like writing on the wall for how the Philadelphia Eagles feel about Jalen Hurts and what this team is going to look like this upcoming season.
Yeah, I would have liked for them to try to go after one of the big name edge guys. Now they did still get a guy in Jonathan Grenard, who is like good, but he got injured and is I think he's going to play week 1, but missed all of training camp. Realistically, like
What's the buzz? What's the buzz difference if the Eagles grab like Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby, or fucking Myles Garrett compared to like Jonathan Grenard? That just felt like a third place trophy almost, like that you were getting handed at that point with the Jonathan Grenard deal.
Yeah, the Eagles fans would have felt as if like how Sixers fans felt when LeBron said that he was coming to Philly. Like they would have been like, "Oh, we're winning this whole thing." So I think that was like, I think you make a good point as far as that goes, because that does seem, because the Eagles in the past few years have been linked to every single high name elite level talent at some point, like
they were last season. They were literally even dating back to last season. They were making moves for Jalen Phillips. They were actively making moves, trying to make things happen. And we're 8 months later down the road, and it's like a completely different tune than what we're used to. And are they outwardly saying it? No. But we're just sitting here watching the moves that they're making and taking that information and kind of like wrapping it up. And that is my takeaway from it, is that they kind of know where they're at as a football team. And it's like, let's not totally commit to this. Let's be non-committal in this and watch what happens this year. Let's watch what happens with Jalen Hurts. And another side of this scenario too, where it's like, I just don't think that Nick Sirianni's job is in jeopardy. I just don't. I think that like, unless if they go out and win and 3 games, then okay. But I think that he's just done so much for Philadelphia. He has a crazy win percentage. He's won a Super Bowl, been to another, had deep playoff runs. And now at this point, it's like, look at the success that he's had with Jalen Hurts, despite all of his limitations, and to be ahead of the curve and know what you need to do on offense and know the way that you need to establish and play the game. It's kind of like hats off to Nick Sirianni in a sense. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with that, but the guy has new coordinators every single year. The defense has stayed solid now, but for a while he was alternating defensive and offensive coordinators pretty much every single season and still having the Eagles in contention. You got to kind of keep that guy around for at least right now, because I feel like that he's proven that he's at least a pretty decent head coach and probably one of the best head coaches in the NFL, and he gets no credit.
If the Eagles go on like a 3-year run of either not making the playoffs and or a first round exit, I think unless he wins like 4 games, 5 games, like you said, I think he'll still be the coach in Philadelphia too, just because like all those reasons that you mentioned. And plus on top of it, like it's hard to find coaches that you can win football games with. And the Eagles' greatest strength is the fact that they're willing to spend money and that they're willing to like make some hard decisions when needed. Like to make the decision to move on from Carson Wentz while he was still there was not an easy decision. And to bring in Sirianni and make him the head coach and then stick with him even when like things started to get tough, and then he turns it around, shaves his head, they win a Super Bowl. Like
people forget.
Like it. Yeah, I think Nick Sirianni's almost greatest like superpower is just staying the fuck out of the way sometimes. And sometimes that is what'll end up getting like what'll end up keeping you a job for an extended period of time is just like knowing when to like give up the reins. And I think that this season Nick Sirianni realized like, hey, I can't my offensive system is not working or it's a quarterback issue, one of the two. But I think the fact that they brought in Mannion too is like this is a new type of offense that Philadelphia hasn't run since Jalen Hurts has been there. And I think I think that Nick Sirianni was basically told like, hey, if you want to stay here, like we've got to change something offensively because what we're doing currently isn't working. We're going to try a new style of offense. And if we begin to have some success with it, but it gets to a point where the quarterback is the overall limitation here, you'll still be fine. But we know that we have to make a change at quarterback. And so I think that's kind of where everything within Philadelphia offensively is like intertwined. I think the defensive side of the ball is fine, and I think they will be as long as Vic Fangio is still there. I do think it's a tough loss. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Christian Parker, I think, was the secondary coach who now is the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys.
Yeah, the Cowboys.
He was a guy that people were like bringing up to get interviewed for the DC job before they brought in Vic Fangio. He probably was a little too young, a little too fresh at that point, but I think he's a really good coach, and I think that he's like going to do a really good job in Dallas. What?
Nothing.
I think he was. I think he was just wasn't ready to be a defensive coordinator quite yet at the time when they were interviewing him.
I'm with you on that. The thing with the defense is I think that they're going to be good, but defense, the stickiness of stats and like how good defenses are from like year to year is so up, and it could potentially be up and down. I think that they have a great interior defensive line, which is super important. I think that their edge is weak, and I think that they have some really good corners. So
I think their linebacker, like Zach Baughn's still good too, but how many more years are you going to get this level of Zach Baughan?
Yeah, like if Zach Baughan fell off a cliff this year, like would anybody be shocked? I don't think so, because I was shocked the year that he had, and then the Eagles paid him, and I was like, that's such a weird Eagles move to go and pay a middle linebacker who's only had one good year. Like it was just like so random, and he didn't have the best. He wasn't bad last year, but it wasn't like the year that he had 2 years ago. I think that I'm with you. I do think the defense will be decent, but I don't know if it is among the top of the top across the league to feel as good to put them into a tier where it's like, man, we know that like this defense, I'm thinking of like the Texans defense. I'm thinking of the Broncos defense. I'm thinking of Seattle's defense. Of if their offense is not looking that good, you know that you can rely on this defense to be able to even potentially win them a playoff game. At this point with the Eagles, I just don't think that they have that in them, unfortunately.
I think that the edge position will be a little bit better than you think. That's not even my biggest concern defensively. My biggest concern is at safety. It's Andrew Makuba, who was banged up last year, and Marcus Epps are the starting safeties, which Marcus Epps was in New England last year, and I'm pretty sure they cut him. They released him. So I might be thinking of somebody else, but either way, Marcus Epps is on the back half of his career.
One real quick question too. There was a point in time where Riq Woolen got benched for not being able to tackle in Seattle. And is there any concern with him as the other corner? Are you like as stoked on him as like everybody else is? Because it feels like that guy, whoever runs that guy PR team needs a raise, because there was a point in time where like everybody was so out on Riq Woolen, and now everybody loves him. It feels like all-time great Madden player too, by the way.
I'm not like I'm cautiously optimistic about Tariq Woolen. I think that you have to be kind of in that headspace as an Eagles fan about this guy because of what you mentioned. Like, you're getting benched on a Super Bowl winning defense. Like, clearly you're doing something wrong. But like, the optimism is because of the good season that he had in Seattle, and it was really good. And I don't do I think that it's going to be that good? Probably not. But do I think it'll be somewhere better than? I think it'll be somewhere in between the benched version and the all pro version of Tariq Woolen. I mean, the other corner we had last year was Adoree Jackson. So um, I'll
He's
take
still-
I'll take a shot. I'll take a flyer on Tariq Woolen.
I also want to go into, before we give our predictions on what the season is, I really quickly want to touch on the NFC East because it feels like the NFC East is getting scarier by the day. The Dallas Cowboys at this point, they might be disgusting. Their defense is a lot better than what it was. You mentioned the DC hire that you think that they could potentially be, he could be a floor raiser. Um, Even think about what happened with the Dallas Cowboys last year. Hey, a week before the season starts, your best defensive player, Micah Parsons, is now not on the team. That's just like a big ask to ask anybody to figure it out on the fly. I think so. Then they make that trade midway through the year, get like Logan Wilson, Quentin Williams. They make some more trades this offseason, make some picks on defense. And the Cowboys have been like notoriously nasty for picking players. And Caleb Downs, they get Caleb Downs this season. It's just like insane, like that guy got to them. And when it happened, I was like, of course, the Cowboys. Happy that he went there because I think that he'll be great in Dallas. But it was like the Cowboys seem to just never miss in the draft. And I'm high on Dallas this year. I mean, Dak's good as long as he's healthy. That you know that they're going to win games. The Pickens CD combo, it seems disgusting. Their offensive line is so tough. Javonte Williams looked really good last year. It's just like there's a lot to like about this Dallas Cowboys team on offense and defense at this point. I think that they've done an incredible job. The New York Giants, I know that people are probably going to be, like you said, cautiously optimistic about what they could be. I don't know. I think that they might be a really good football team. Hiring John Harbaugh, I don't think can be understated enough. He went to the AFC Championship his first year in with the Baltimore Ravens all those years ago, and I think Jackson Dart looks really good. Cam Scatterbo is absolutely nuts. It seems like Malik Neighbors, his knee looks completely fine based on some of the videos, and I think
Did
that
you see
the
that
Giants,
video of him?
who,
Malik Neighbors. I might be out on him.
yeah, that's off the field stuff, but and then just the defense. I just their defense at this point, like they just have so many dudes that I just don't know how it can't be a decent unit. And I think putting Harbaugh in there with the guys that they have, I just think that they're going to be a pretty scary unit. And then if we talk about the Commanders, I hate the Commanders. You hate the Commanders. We always hate the Commanders. But 2 years ago, we also hated the Commanders then, and they won 13 games and went to the NFC Championship, and it made 0 sense.
Yeah.
I don't think that we get a version of them like that this year.
No.
But I will give Jaden Daniels enough respect that he could potentially pull out a game against the Eagles, even though he has a weird relationship with his mom.
100%.
I just think that like this is going to be this is sneaky. I think that this has sneakily become one of the best divisions in football. I know everybody sits there and talks about the Bears, the NFC North, but I think that the East is right there with like being the best, arguably one of the best in football. So them or the Chiefs, Chargers, the AFC West, I think that is. So I just think that the Eagles are going to have a lot tougher time this year in the division than they've had in past years.
And on top of that, all the things that we talked about offensively, like if this offense gets off to a slow start and it just looks so clunky, I think the defense is good enough to like keep them in it for some period of time throughout this season. but I don't think that it's necessarily, like you said, I don't think it's one of the best 3 defenses in the NFL. I think that this has to be a unit of give and take where you have to get production out of this team offensively. Otherwise, you're going to get the same thing that we saw last year. And last year, yeah, they won 11 games, but like I'm the talent level last year was higher than it currently is this year.
And you look at some of those, the 2 wins just off the top of my head is like
Rams.
The Rams win that shouldn't have been a win, and then realistically the Broncos win that could have easily gone the other way. And those are just 2.
No. They lost to the Broncos last year.
Oh, who was the close one that I'm thinking of that I can't remember? One swung late, but there's
a Buffalo win.
That's the one I'm thinking about, where like those 2 wins off the top of my head, like could have easily gone the other way. And and we could probably say that about every NFL team. So like maybe I shouldn't harp on that like too heavily, but I'm just not high on this Eagles team. I would love to hear your prediction for what you expect out of them this season though.
So my prediction for them this year, I think that this is like, I think that this could be one end of the spectrum and wouldn't be shocked if it was the other end of the spectrum. I think the one end of the spectrum is they could end up winning, like say the offense does click and their offensive line stays healthy and Saquon puts up a strong year and Mekhi Lemon's actually healthy to start the season. I think that if everything goes well, I think that this team could win 12 games. I think that it's more likely that they probably win 9. And that's where I'm at. I think that this team ends up going 9-8. But there's also a realm here for this Philadelphia Eagles team to win like 6 games.
Interesting you said that. That's the exact number that I have written down. I think we see the worst of what we have seen from the Philadelphia Eagles in this era, in the Jalen Hurts era, let's say. I've seen enough from Jalen Hurts to the point where I was out on him, and then he went and won a Super Bowl, and then everybody was like, screw you. Like I remember Tyler coming on this platform and like trying to like tell me off. It was like, you're wrong about Jalen Hurts. I'm like, I'm not wrong about Jalen Hurts. He did just catch an all-time hot streak in this playoff run, but I will be on the right side of history at some point with this Jalen Hurts take. And not when he's like 90 and like washed, but like when he's like dead in the middle of his prime. And I think that like, I'm just thinking this is all I'm thinking about right now. Are they home week 1?
Week 1, they play Washington
at home. I'm thinking they're at home. It's like the end of the first quarter. The offenses look terrible. Or no, we're going into halftime or something like that. There's a little bit of time left on the clock to potentially like try to push it and get in the field goal range. And Jalen Hurts kneels it out to run in a halftime run in the locker room at halftime. And the crowd is just fucking booing loud. Week 1, and I'm saying week 1. I'm not giving any like grace period on this because the Eagles fans are, I think, at their limit with and rightfully so, what they watched last year. I felt bad for you. I felt bad for Eagles fans because it just wasn't fair to have to watch that on a week-to-week basis. It was so boring.
It sucked. It was the same 6 routes every game.
And I think that there is no indicator on past history that the Eagles fans won't be outspoken if this offense doesn't look at least somewhat competent early.
For what it's worth, though, that would probably be a better outcome than Jalen Carter spitting in Dak Prescott's face and getting kicked out before the first play of the game even starts. So
if you remember last year, that line came out like early. It was like 9.5. And I was like, that is the worst line I've ever seen. And all summer long, I was like, Cowboys plus 9.5, Cowboys money line. And as the season got closer, I had like $480 on it, like week one, like Cowboys plus 8.5. And I'll never forget, like the game fires up. Everybody was chirping me in the group chat because everybody thought the Eagles were just going to blow out the Cowboys. And Jalen Carter like spits on Dak, and I was like going nuts. I was just like amped out of my mind. I was like, get him out of the game, get him out of the game, like screaming. And my dad is a massive Eagles fans, and he was all pissed off at me because I was watching the game with him. He was like, fuck you, like all mad at me. And it was just like that was such an
Steve, what the fuck are you doing?
Game. Yeah,
Shut
he's
the
like,
hell up.
He's like, Dak's a pussy. Like, all pissed off at me for like getting all fired up that Jalen Carter got kicked out of the game. But yeah, you're definitely not wrong. The Eagles are just they're going to be a very interesting hot topic watch the entire season. And I don't think that we'll see what's best. And I think that even the top end version of what we could potentially get from the Philadelphia Eagles is still going to be question marks in that building to be like, do we roll out Tanner McKee? And this sounds nuts. Do we roll out Tanner McKee to see what we have with him and potentially?
I don't even think it would be Tanner McKee. I think that Andy Dalton is QB2 currently.
Yeah. It's like, well, let's roll out Andy Dalton and see if we can get the best out of some of our. I'm just thinking back to the Kyler Murray Cardinals situation with Jacoby Brissett, where Jacoby Brissett comes in and they're not winning football games, but it's like, all right, we're seeing a lot out of our talent, and they're having big games like Trey McBride's eating, Michael Wilson's eating. Like these players are starting to look more competent, and we can get a better feel for like what we have with them if this guy is running the offense compared to the other guy. And we're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. So let's just say, screw it. We have multiple first round picks in this upcoming draft, and let's just kind of call it a lost year and worry about the QB position in 2027.
The one thing that I keep going back to is that this offense last year was so painful to watch week in and week out. And they still managed, and they had a decently difficult schedule, and they still managed to win 11 games. Like, I don't really know if the passing offense or even the passing offense can't get worse than what it was what we saw last year.
I think it is really worse.
Dude, I don't know. That was terrible.
You just removed AJ Brown.
I'm saying from like a conceptual standpoint, I think that will just automatically lead to it being a little bit better. The play calling and the passing concepts last year were horrific on a play-to-play basis.
I guess just the argument is that the offense is getting called like that for a specific reason, and it's because of Jalen Hurts. Even if you go back to when Kellen Moore was running the offense, there were times
concepts were even better.
There were times. I think people are quick to forget that there were times when Kellen Moore was running the offense, and when they ran screens on both sides for the 20th time, and everybody started booing, that happened under Kellen Moore as well.
That was before him.
No, I watched it happen.
That was before Kellen Moore. The offense did start slow that year. They started out 2-2, and then after that Saints game, I'm pretty sure is when they locked it in.
If you look at the passing numbers from that year, they had one of the worst passing offenses in the entire league. I said it a million times. Under Kellen Moore, they had one of the worst passing offenses in the entire league, worse than the Giants, worse than the Patriots when they were both really, really bad. That was under Kellen Moore.
That was more enjoyable than watching last season.
No, you just liked watching Saquon bust 60-yard runs. That is like what everybody remembers from that season was the explosive run game. It wasn't the passing game.
The year that they were running one-step hitches with Julio Jones in year 37 was with Brian Johnson at OC.
That was. And the next year it wasn't any better.
It was more enjoyable than that. And I
You
felt
don't
like
you don't remember. You're not. I really don't think. I think that the Eagles fans. I would love for the Eagles fans to, outside of the playoff run and the Super Bowl win, to rewind that season and rewatch it and actually remember what that team looked like and the conversations that were being had before going into that playoff run. Because if you go back in time and look at if you look at videos on this channel, we were literally sitting here having the same conversations that we were having about Jalen Hurts right now, right before that playoff run, being like, this offense is way too talented to be this bad.
And it was worse last year.
It was way worse last year. It was.
It was worse last year.
It definitely was. So, hey, it sounds like you aren't that high on them, but you're hopeful. I mean, you're a fan, so that's what it is. But big prove it year for the Eagles and Jalen Hurts.
Massive, massive prove it year.
My finger, I just spit it.